Welcome back to another Rec to Resto episode. On today's episode, I'll be carrying on with some rust repairs on the HK Prem. I'm not sure if this is going to work, but I'm just going to give it a try. Gotta be happy with that. So you would have seen in the last episode, I got this piece all welded in and finished off. Had a couple little pinholes through here. So I've just migged the little pinholes up and sanded them back flush. See under here, that's all sanded back. So I'll give this a coat of etch primer now. But before I do that, I've just got to sand these back a little bit. And I'll show you a new little toy that I got. So this is a little pneumatic belt sander. Takes the 10mm belts, and it's very, very handy to getting into those places that you just can't quite get with a grinder or a die grinder. So I'll get set up and I'll show you how I use this thing. Easy as that. I can't get right into the corner, but I can still get in a lot better than what I could do with anything else. So just looking here, I don't know if you can see daylight. So there's a pinhole here. There's also another one here. So you can probably see the light coming and going as I wave my hand behind it. So these ones here, I'm just going to spot these couple ones up with the MIG and then sand them back as well. And then that should be this whole area pretty well sorted. So what I've got here is I've got a bit of copper, so I can just clamp that in behind it, and that just acts as a bit of a heat soak and stops it blowing out so easily. I'll get that clamped in place, I'll get these couple spotted up, get it sanded back, and this bit's done. Just a couple more little low spots, I'll give them a quick fill, sand, and that's all good to go. So as you can see, there's still a couple tiny little marks in here, but nothing to worry about. This will get painted before I put the beaver back on. So I'll mix up some epoxy and I'll paint all this just to completely seal in behind here. What I'm probably going to do here is actually drill the rest of these spot weld holes out, and I'll get some Tech screws from the outside holding this in, but I'm probably going to plug weld it from the back side through these, and then it means I don't have to drill out all these ones on the front of the beaver. I'll actually get welded from back because I can actually get to that. All of these ones underneath and around here, I'll probably end up just drilling through the beaver, or I might even see if I can chase up a spot welder, to be honest, to do these ones, because it will give me a lot nicer job. But yeah, these ones down here, there's a few holes where it's drilled through, so I'm going to MIG all of these holes back up again, and then we'll get going with it. So moving on to this side repair. So what I've done is I've just basically mocked up this lower quarter section sitting in here, so that's just held on with clamps and everything, because I needed that in there because that dictates sort of how all this corner fits. What I've done is I've just cut out a little bit of cardboard and I've put some slots on it, because this piece actually starts straight but then it tapers off at the end. So what I can do is I can mark it all out, the piece that I want, and then these bits here I can obviously gain that in the bit of sheet metal, and then as I fold this around I can just do it with the hammer and dolly and just work it around so that it kicks down. But I can put some masking tape over the back here, that'll hold it all in place. I need to mark on the back side where I have to cut it, and then I'll bring it the whole way out to here, and there was a little bit of steel left in here that I'm going to drill the spot welds out and remove that. So my new piece actually comes the whole way through to here and welds on here rather than joining back here. So I'll get this little piece marked out, I'll get it trimmed up to where it needs to be, and then I can transfer it to some sheet metal. Should hold it in place. So this line here, it was following this bit down, but I actually want it to carry the whole way through because it would weld to this piece, not that piece. We'll get this marked out. I can basically carry straight through here, and then I'll probably leave a little bit on the outside so that I can tap it around and weld on the back side of that panel. And this one here can continue straight along as well. So that's pretty close. I might just add a little bit on this end. So I can just put on the tape here. I'll just add 10 mil. And I'll probably do the same thing on here. And then what I can do is this edge here will probably just wrap around a bit. Or even if I just spot weld it through on this edge. And then this one here can just basically weld into the corner. So this piece here, that was replaced a few years back when I was doing bits and pieces on this before I started my ute. So that's why this is all new. But yeah, this was about as far as I got with it when I started working on it last time. So be able to get it all finished now. So sedans normally have the spare wheel well here. So this is the Dino's panels that actually deletes the spare wheel well that sits in here. So yeah, the bottom of the quarter will be flat through here. It won't have the hump in it. So I've just got my paper template and I've actually cut it up just to make it a bit easier to transfer to the sheet metal. So the bit where it's straight is I've cut it off from there. I've then transferred that across, and then I've used this radius to mark out where it's going to kick down. So because this is going to be bent on a radius like that, I can't do it in the pan brake. So what I can do is I can just set up on the bench, hammer and dolly, and just slowly work my way around and fold that over, and then I'll put this little kick on it at the very end. So I've got a little bit of sheet metal to trim off, so I'll get this cut off. I'll probably just do it with the tin steps, and then I can start folding this piece up. So I'm just going to slowly work my way around with the hammer and dolly on the steel bench. I'll get this folded down, and then once I've got that folded down, I'll test fit it on the car and I'll put this little return on it. And if I go out and buy that bead roller, I could literally just put this through the bead roller and start with the tipping guide, but that's That's why it's on the list to buy. But slowly getting there. As you can see, I'm starting to get a fair bit of shape in it. That stayed pretty true. That's got the curve in it, so I just need to keep going a little bit more. I might start tipping this edge over because then I can get a better idea of how it's going to sit. Go try that out, see how that's going to fit. So I just need to slice a little bit off this corner to get it to go up. And then I might just have to play around with this top edge just to get this to fit nice. But should work out pretty good. Moving on to this side now. So I've marked out where I want to cut it. I just made just a flat cardboard template, very similar to the other side. This one was a bit quicker to do. So what I've done is I've just cut that out of a bit of steel. I've marked my little radius on here that's going to follow that radius. Now it's time to fold this one up. Go have a look at that on the car. So you can see how I've polished the face of the hammer. You can actually see on this edge how it's starting to transfer that finish onto the steel. So if I was to go over this whole thing and planish it out, you'd end up with almost a chrome finish on the sheet metal. So I should spend some more time and on the railway track and all my other dollies, get them looking like that, because it does make a big difference. But at the end of the day, it's all going to get painted anyway, so it doesn't really matter. This radius ended up being quite sharp, so I'm just going to go over it on this side, which isn't as sharp as this end, and just put that radius the whole way back through. That piece all made. So when I folded that bit over, it just straightened this out a bit too much. So you probably just saw me at the end, just hitting these two ends out, just to give this the same, probably needs a little bit more to be honest, but to match that radius, because this was straight, but that had a curve to it. So I might just keep going with that, just get it a little bit more radiused, and then it should be good to go. Problem is, this has to actually shrink in to get that radius, and when you're just hammering it, you're actually stretching it if you're hammering it steel on steel. So I probably just need to create some little tucks in it, and that will keep it with that radius. Just got that piece clamped on there. You can see it covers all that area. Sits in there quite nice. I can trim this out. Probably that'll do for today, but get this trimmed out, get it welded in. That's that corner all done. See this one here? Just need to trim off that little bit at the bottom to get that to fit nice. And yeah, I can weld that one in. And that's this whole bottom section done behind the beaver, apart from the tail light. So I'll get these ones all welded in, get them done, and then I'm probably after that going to start moving on to all this here. So tail light, rear quarter, Obviously the lower part here, got a lower section to do here. So I've got all the panels to do all that. While I'm in here, I might fix this. So I've actually got to cut off another car to fix that, because to try and get in there and panel beat it out is going to be a little bit tricky, but I can easily just cut this piece out and weld a new piece in. So that's this green quarter here. I can use part of that quarter to fix it. And then I've got this other quarter cut that I'm going to use to fix this quarter. Disregard that line that I've got drawn on there. That'll probably change. That was just me trying to figure out where I was going to, well, attempt to cut it, but I'll probably come up here, and instead of doing tight corners, I'll do radius cuts here, radius cut there. And I'm undecided if I'm going to come the whole way up and over and weld it along the top, but the quarter that I've got doesn't go the whole way, so it's just been cut off through here, so I can't unpick the entire quarter to replace it. But it's one of those things, I'll just figure it out as I go. So I may have got a little bit excited and jumped ahead, didn't get to film much of it, but these two corners are now all done. They're welded in and they're all flushed off. So you can see that one's all welded in, all smoothed off around the back. And I've also done this corner over here, same thing, that's all welded in, smoothed off. You can see the weld up there. So we can start moving on now. I'm going to move on to this tail light bucket, get that done. Once that's done, we can move on to the next thing. So next I'm going to get this templated. So because it's a bit of an odd shape, the easiest way to do this is just going to be with some masking tape. So I'll chuck some masking tape over the area, and I'll cut it out with a Stanley knife to where I actually want to cut the steel out, and then I can easily just peel the masking tape off then and transfer it to a bit of sheet metal. As you can see, that pretty well covers this whole corner that I need to replace. These holes here, that's where I drilled the spot welds out, so these ones here will stay because that's where I'll plug weld them back in. So just trim out this corner a little bit more and carefully remove it. There we go. So I've got that piece cut out, so I can sort of sit this on there roughly where I need it to be, mark where the fold's going to be. Once I've marked the fold, I can chuck that fold in it, sit it on top, and then I can cut the rest of it out. When you move the blade back, it gives you a more sweeping bending radius. The tighter you have the blade, the tighter the radius is. This one's not a real tight one, it's sort of got a bit of a sweep to it, so set it up there and see how we go. the last little trim out I'm probably just going to do with a file, get it all file fit. So yeah, it's only a couple more mils, so take off a tiny bit more with the snips, file it out, get it fitting nice, and I can get it welded in. This bit here is going to have a hole and a little bit of a recess for where the tail light mounts. So I'll get it all welded in first, and then I'll sit the tail light in there to mark that one. And then I'll probably just use a bit of pipe or a socket on this side, tap it down that way to get that little pressing in there. So I've got that piece held in with a couple clamps. This piece took ages to get to fit right. So just sanding and test fitting and sanding and test fitting, but I've got this bottom, well, the back part of it fitting pretty nice now. So I'll probably just get some tacks on that. And once I've got some tacks on that, I can move around to this top piece, which will pull in and it will sit in there pretty nice. So yeah, just very, very fiddly piece to make, but we'll get it tapped in and see how it goes. So that's pretty well tacked up the whole way around now. So I'll go around with the hammer and dolly and just plenish these out a little bit once it's cooled down. That just, obviously as it's cooling it will shrink. I'll just re-stretch it. That'll get it to sit where it needs to. And then I can go around and finish welding all of this. Once I've finished welding it, then I can sort out this end here. So these need folding over, but I can do all that afterwards. I've got a couple old chisels here that I've just modified the ends. So this one I've just completely flattened off, sanded and polished the end of it. So that just gives me something I can put in the vise and use as a dolly. I've also got this smaller one, exactly the same thing, cleaned up the end of it. Because I can't fit this over this bit. I can do this bit, but there's a lot of other bits that I just can't get into, so I could just quickly do it on this one. So the GoPro went flat as I was finishing off this last bit, but that's all welded in. So I tigged it the whole way around. I've just drilled this hole out for where the tail light bolts through. So now I'm just going to put this little recess in. I'm not sure if this is going to work, but I'm just going to give it a try. I've just got a socket here that matches up with that other size. So I'm just going to sit this on top and I can just eyeball the center of the socket through that hole. And then just got a bit of round bar. I'm just going to tap that down and through and see how that goes. Don't know if you can see that, but it's actually worked pretty well. It matches up with the other ones. So now what I might do is, it's just a little bit bulbed, is I'll put the round bar in the vise, give it a bit of a tap with the hammer, and it should come up pretty good. Got to be happy with that. I've got the new tail light here, so I could just test fit it. These are going to end up having longer studs put on them. These are just the ones that come with the lights, but they're not actually going to be long enough by the time I put the gasket on. You can see they all line up pretty good. So there's going to be a fair bit of work getting this actually fitted back into the car. So I'm going to finish off this video here. As you can see, ticked off quite a few little bits and pieces here. Obviously got this tail light bucket done. I've got both of those corners done. I've got that piece done. So now this can get welded back into the car. Pretty well after that is when I can start looking at fitting this beaver panel. I've got the subframe for the HG ute going to come back next week. So I'm going to be mixing up some Ep3 epoxy to paint the subframe. When I mix up the paint to do that, I'm probably going to give this a coat at the same time, just so that all of the inside areas, bucket, everything is all coated in epoxy, just to seal it off properly before this beaver panel goes back on. Other thing I'm probably going to do is just sand back the inside of this. I don't 100% trust this coating that comes on these panels. You can see it already gets a little bit, it's easy to chip and it surface rust pretty quick, so I'll probably paint strip the inside of that, clean it all up, and I'm going to epoxy the inside of that panel as well. And then just these bits here I can always sand off afterwards and just put some weld through, but I have found that the Ep3 you can actually weld through it, doesn't turn out too bad. So yeah, it's pretty good to actually finally get stuck into this prem. It's been a long time in the making, so if I just keep chipping away at these repairs, when I get time to do them, I'll just get them done, and yeah, before I know it, get this thing back on the road. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, thanks for watching. As always, we appreciate all the support, and we'll see you guys on the next one.